So my name is Pastor Javier Rodriguez. Everyone calls me Javi. I kind of prefer it. Originally from upstate New York, a little town called Rochester. You probably never heard of. I've been in church my whole life. Um, Sounds real cliche, but I've been in ministry active since I was about 12 years old, in some capacity, starting off playing saxophone in youth group, and God has definitely done a work. So since I can remember, my mom always brought me to church. My dad would kind of come sometimes. My mom was kind of like the one that always brought me to church. I was always with her. I remember her bringing me pillows when I was a baby, and we'd have all night vigils, and I'd sleep, and my mom would pray, and I was kind of around that. My whole life, I was in children's choir. I was in church plays, and during that time, my father wasn't really serving the Lord, and it wasn't until I was about 10 or 11 years old where my father agreed to go to church with my mother, and I saw my dad's life just be completely transformed. It was literally night and day. I think my mother prayed for him for about 10 or 12 years, and just seeing that, that's when God became real to me. I saw the change in my father from his mood to, went from going out drinking all the time to literally pouring out beer down the sink as soon as we got home from church. I saw my mom tithe faithfully and see how God brought them out of, financial troubles to where they are now, where, they're both retired, living in Florida. It was not gonna say I had the easiest life, but, since I can remember, I've always leaned on God, and I can thank my parents for that. I mean, growing up, I was always passionate about music, and I guess the connection came when I started joining, the praise team and youth band. Sounds like a cliche story. For me, it was different because I didn't play guitar. I didn't even sing. I played the saxophone, and, they saw something in me. They saw a desire, and my youth pastor gave me a shot. And that tied again with seeing how my mother was such a prayer warrior and faithful in church and involved. I saw that, man, there's definitely a higher power. There's someone up in heaven who, his power is so great we can't even explain. And at a young age, I know I couldn't quite explain it, but I remember being in a service one time, and I felt something I couldn't really explain, and just tears started rolling down my face, and thinking about how my family dynamic used to be and how it is now, and how that's just not a coincidence, And so it gave me the desire to just dig deeper and deeper and deeper. And then I found my passion with music, and that turned into a big passion for worship itself, and seeing how worship can, really impact people's lives, and how it can completely change the atmosphere of whatever you're going, not even just the service, whatever you're going through, I've seen my parents literally wake up in the middle of the night worshiping, and then God just, completely turns an impossible situation into a blessing that we never saw coming. When I was, I want to say 17 years old, I was a high school student, going into my senior year. I was invited to minister at a conference. And so I went, and ministry was something I always enjoyed, but it wasn't something that I ever thought, would be like my calling, so to speak, and it was a very powerful conference. It was a big youth conference. I saw everything from kids, give up drugs on the spot, give up gang affiliations on the spot. People get healed, and being a part of that just was something special. And I for the first time in my life, I heard, God say, that this is what you're called to do, and I heard the words, you're not who you think you are. And at the time, I didn't really know what that meant. Fast forward now, obviously, I went from playing the sax in a youth band to being a worship pastor, and it's just crazy, man, to see how God works, and it's amazing how God can see something in you that you can't even see yourself. And so, when that happened, the plan was to graduate, typical senior, graduate, go to college, live at home for a couple of years, save money, and it just didn't feel right. The only thing that made sense at the time was to do ministry, and so I was presented with the opportunity, actually here in Florida. At the time, I was living in upstate New York, to intern at a church. I had a cousin who was the youth pastor there. They were doing some great things in the youth ministry in the church, and something I wanted to be a part of. I was offered an internship, and so it was kind of difficult to explain to your parents, hey, I want to give up going to college to interning at some church you've never heard of. And you know, God somehow made a way. You know, at 18 years old, I graduated in June. By August, I was moved into, you know, a place down here by myself with a couple friends from the church. We all interned at that church. I got a job at Disney. You know, everyone works at Disney. From there, that led to a scholarship to Southeastern University, and then fast forward 10 years, and here I am now. Some people know, some people don't. I was in the military. You know, I've seen some things, experienced some things where I don't even know how I'm still here, how I got out alive. Things you see in your nightmares, you see in movies. You know, I have a 4-year-old little boy from prior marriage. You know, I went through a very painful divorce, dealing with depression, anxiety, not even having the will to live, and to see God turn that around to where I am now. It's just, you know, and it's not to gloat. Like it's just a testament of how good God is. You know, like naturally I'm not the most expressive person. Like I'm quiet, I'm calm, I'm to myself. When I'm leading worship, like very expressive, because if you knew what I've been through, if you've seen what I've seen, if you've done some of the things that I've done, you may have a little shout in your worship as well. You know, I'm a firm believer that, you know, worship isn't just what happens here in this church. It's what happens. It's what we're created to do. And so when I step on that altar and I give God praise, it comes from a very deep place, and I'm going to continue to do it whether I am, you know, 32 years old now, leading worship at Orlando North, or whether I'm driving on the way home and just thanking God for, you know, what He's done, or thanking God just because of who He is. Because I've never found a love greater than God's love. I've never experienced anything greater than the love of Christ and the joy He gives me. And so when I'm up there worshiping, you know, I just want to bring hope, encouragement to people. And I want to be an example of what God can do in someone's life. You know, the thing that's kept me holding on and kept me alive has been worship. And that's why it's something that's so passionate to me. You know, I'm only 32 years old, but, you know, I am 80% disabled according to, you know, the United States Air Force. I have injuries from tendonitis and arthritis in my knees to, I've had 2 surgeries on each hand. And as a musician, that's one of the scariest things you can, you know, that you could experience. You know, I have multiple injuries to my neck, my back, from, you know, numerous things that I experienced in the military. And, you know, one of the things that really affected me was the fact that, you know, having surgery on my hands, you know, to me, my sacrifice to God was my music, my worship, and not being able to do that really kind of just, honestly, it made me depressed. You know, I found myself alone in a foreign country. At the time, I was going through a divorce. My son was taken away from me. I had no friends. I had nothing. I was by myself, and what would get me through it was my worship. And then, you know, I break my hand, and I'm told that I could, for the rest of my life, I could experience pain and never really play again. Twice, you know. By the glory of God, I'm still playing. I'm still giving God worship, and, you know, when I'm up there, that's not even a thought in my mind. But, you know, that's definitely a struggle that I've had to overcome. But what's crazy is that, you know, like my whole life, you know, I've been a worshiper, but I've been mainly a musician. And, you know, not being able to use my hands, which to me were, you know, a gift that God gave me, from that, you know, my voice was birthed in a way, because I had nothing else to give. You know, I couldn't play the sax, you know, I couldn't play the guitar, I couldn't play the piano, so all I could do is shout to God and worship the best way I know how. And somehow that turned into just a serious passion in my heart, because rather than hiding in the back, you know, I felt God pulling me to the front, not for arrogant purposes or just to declare how good He is. You know, there's people that need to know, because I'm firmly believe that we may be the only Jesus, the only God that some people may ever see. And so I try to take every opportunity to share Christ's love. And, you know, again, I'm a shy person, but when it comes to the things of the Lord, when it comes to worship, I'm very passionate, very expressive. The way I ended up in Orlando North is it's a funny story. Like, I was actually, I was already graduated from college. I was working part-time for the Orlando Magic, and I was working part-time at a church, which is actually up the street, which is, every time I think about it, it's insane. not insane, but it's just funny. And at the time, I really felt, ministry was something that obviously I wanted to do, not just part-time or in my spare time, but full-time and serve in a house that, loved God and loved people. And so during that time, I felt God telling me to transition. I necessarily didn't have somewhere to go. I just knew that I just needed to take a leap of faith, in other words, and just be obedient. And I remember during that time when I was struggling with that, I got a text from Pastor Duran. And we started talking about the possibility of me coming to Orlando North and serving as a worship pastor. And the day we were supposed to meet up, I got really sick. Like, I couldn't get out of bed. And so we had to cancel. And we didn't talk for months. And then out of nowhere, I get another text from Duran. At the time I was still looking to just even get plugged into a church, working part-time, working odd jobs here just to make it through to support my son. But I was in a serious time of just prayer and fasting to see where God was leading me. And then Duran called, we met up for coffee, and instantly it was a connection there. Our hearts were the same. Rob wore cool sneakers. I like sneakers. And so I was like, this church is awesome. Same day I came and saw the building. When I came and I saw the people and I met the team, I was like, wow, this is something I really want to be a part of. I mean, I consider, one of my greatest blessings in spite of everything that happened is my son. He'll be 5 in a few weeks. He's my heart. Has a very sweet spirit. You'll probably see him running around here in kids' church, running around with Jordan. For me, one of the biggest hurdles to overcome is, obviously going through a divorce. It's difficult to, hop into another relationship or even think about it in a relationship. Another blessing that I'm grateful for that I don't even think I deserve is the pretty girl you always see to my right. Deborah, my fiance, soon-to-be wife. We're getting married this January, and it's so exciting, and I can't wait. She's just a huge blessing to my life, to my family's life. She was there during an impossible situation with my father, where we didn't know where to turn, and she was a support to me, my son, my mom, and has been patient with me through everything I've dealt with. When I met her, I was leading worship at a church in New Smyrna Beach, going to school in Winter Park, living in Kissimmee. First and foremost, she has a heart for ministry. She has a heart for worship, and she was a really good friend in the time that I needed it. Since day one, she supported my heart, my calling, my ministry. She's helped. To me, she's another testament of God's love. She taught me just how good God is, and every time I look at her, it's a testament, like I said, of God's love, and how much He loves us, how much He loves me, and the fact that He was willing to bless someone like me with someone as great as her. Every time I think about it, I get emotional, because it's like, we sit back and think, God, we don't deserve this, we don't deserve that, and yet You still give us even more. And so, the fact that I have someone, right by my side who has a heart for ministry, who has a heart for the local church, and who treats my son like, man, they're best friends. When she's around, I don't exist. And I love it. I love the dynamic between her and my son, her and my mom, her and my dad, her and my family. And we just can't wait to see what God does in our lives, in our marriage, here at Orlando North. We have a heart for this church. We have a heart for the kingdom. And it's unfortunate that I was here for 10 seconds and everything shut down. But even throughout that process, to see, people's heart for this church, for the community, for each other, something that every day it encourages me, and I can't wait to see 6 months from now, or, a year from now, where God's taking us. I can't wait to finally be able to meet some people. I know we can't necessarily hug and stuff like that, but just to see people's faces and hear their stories. I definitely know this is where God wants me to be. It's been, everyone here has been great to me, my son, to Deborah, and embrace us as family. It's something that we desperately needed. Because a lot of times, you get into the hustle and bustle of life, even ministry, and, you forget sometimes that, we're in the business of people, and so that's one thing that really drew us as a church, people's hearts, their hearts for each other, and their hearts to just serve the kingdom. Play one big loud note. Just one. Like this, look. Your turn.
Do it.
Just
You have to hold it.
Hold it. Do you want me to hold it or you want to hold it? Okay, around.